my screen that I'm sharing here with the slides? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Number one, my camera is over here. Um, but my presentation is over here. So it's not that I'm ignoring you guys. It's just I'm looking over here at the slides as you guys are. So my name is Dennis Callahan. I am the project manager for this project. I've been with the county now since early November of 2024. We're very happy to have everybody join. I think there's probably going to be a few others that are coming in as the presentation gets going here. We are recording the presentation, so it will be posted at some point soon after the presentation, and I'll be sure to send out a link to where that's located. So without further ado, this meeting is for Willow Woods Park, south of Brayburn Drive. We have an AE on board, and we are in the early stages of design for this particular project. It is a part of the overall umbrella Long Branch Watershed Management Area project, which I'll touch on in a little bit on the next slide. But what I wanted to first do was get into a little bit of what we're going to be sharing with you all in the agenda. So really the purpose of this presentation is to go over all these bullets here, which are provide a project background and overview, provide a lot of the project goals, which we hope and will meet. We're going to introduce the design. Again, we're at the early stages. We call it 35%. So very early on in the design process, still a lot to hash out and a lot will still develop as design progresses. We'd like to go over some design considerations just to show, a lot of the thought that goes into laying out a stream and doing stream restoration plans and construction. We'll try and be brief with explaining the benefits of a stream restoration project. There's going to be a little technical jargon there, but I'll try and avoid a lot of that and just try and explain the benefits as easy as possible. We'll discuss some of the project requirements and impacts of the project. And then finally, last but not least, we'll show some example renderings of similar projects and then discuss some of the next steps of the project. I would ask, there's not as many people as I thought were going to attend. So what I was going to ask is that if there are any questions and that sort of thing to try and hold it to the end of the meeting. But if you feel like you're going to forget the question or whatever, please feel free to raise your hand and I may not catch it. So maybe Jim or Paul, you can let me know when that happens and we can try and answer the question. So as I said, the project is part of the overall Long Branch Watershed Management Area project, which is what you're looking at here on the screen. So this particular project is located right there where my hand is, where the red circle is. So again, that's Willow Woods Park, or Willow Woods at Rutherford Park, I should say. It's one of the Long Branch Watershed Management Area projects, which I just noted, and it is located on Fairfax County Park Authority property, just immediately south of Brayburn Drive and immediately west of Ponderosa Drive. To just go over some of the project background and a brief overview here. These four pictures to the left of your screen are existing condition photos of the stream we're talking about here. It's approximately 1,500 linear feet of existing stream and forested stream corridor. The main channel is deeply eroded. There's banks reaching up to 10 feet in height. Combination of these high banks and the ongoing channel widening has disconnected the channel from the forest floor. What I mean by channel widening is the sides of the streams are eroding and getting pushed further and further apart. It's typically due to fast moving water or changes upstream, like new developments, that sort of thing. So as the stream widens over time, um, it becomes disconnected, if you will, from the forest floor. It's kind of like a trench. So even when it rains a lot, the water stays or remains stuck in the deeper channel and doesn't really have an opportunity to spread out. So this cuts off the natural relationship really between the stream and the surrounding land and forest floor, which can harm the ecosystem and it can worsen erosion. So healthy streams are usually connected to the surrounding forest floor, which means even during heavy rains or the water as it rises, it spreads out onto the forest floor. It's a good thing because this helps to slow the water down. It soaks into the ground. All this helps to reduce erosion and downstream flooding. Um, Vegetation, trees, wildlife, by keeping the soil moist and depositing nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen, which when those are in excess or in excess, I should say, can be harmful to the environment. So as the water slows and soaks into the ground, these nutrients attach to soil particles and the microbes, which are nothing but very tiny organisms like bacteria and fungi, etc., um, break these nutrients down into harmless things like nitrogen gas, for example. So plant roots also take up the nutrients as food, which helps to clean the water. So the ground really plays a large, big role in filtering and processing these nutrients, which again, in excess, can be harmful to the environment. So and pollute the streams. Um, we're on the third bullet now. There is the main channel is approximately 1,500 linear feet. There is a smaller intermittent channel that ties into the main channel. This happens. This is at the downstream end of our project, and I'll show you guys where here and on the next few slides. But that main channel really originates from Ponderosa Drive, ties into or that intermittent channel ties into the main channel, but it originates near Ponderosa Drive. So for those of you that may not know what intermittent means, it means a stream that is not constantly flowing. So a constantly flowing stream, in comparison, would be a stream that flows all the time. There are asphalt and natural surface trails existing, as well as a pedestrian bridge within the project area and within the limits of work. So that pedestrian bridge there is the top right photo. That bridge is remaining with the project. It's not a part of the scope to remove or repair or replace anything like that. So we are working, the plan is to work around that bridge without impacting it as we're doing the stream restoration. The photo on the bottom right is the very upstream end of the project. It's hard to see in this photo, but there's a better photo later in the presentation that shows a lot of concrete that is failing and cracking, and it's just torn apart concrete that was installed there what appears to be many years ago, but I'm not sure when exactly. But either way, the concrete is failing. So part of this project would be to rip that concrete out and um, move on with the stream restoration. The photo on the bottom left is an example of the incised and widening channel. So incised is basically just another fancy term for a stream that just sort of goes further and further and further down into the ground. So it's incised into the ground. It results in much faster moving water. It's concentrated, shoots pollutant, sediments, that sort of thing downstream. Um, That photo is also an example of the channel widening over time. You can see how high the bank is here on the left. The other side is here. That is something else indicative of a stream that's not in good condition. Moving on to the next slide here, continuing on with a little bit of project background and more photos. We wanted to provide this slide just to show the condition of the stream. Again, these are all existing condition photos of the stream we plan to restore. You can see the severely undercut banks. The photo on the top right is approximately 6 to 8 feet high. It's about 20 feet long. The photo on the left is another example of the undercut banks. Same with the one on the bottom right. A part of our projects as it relates to stream restoration is, number one, it's an environmental project to improve everything, the ecosystem, the condition of the stream, environmentally. But there's also other components to stream restoration. And in this case, there is an exposed sanitary sewer main that crosses the main channel there. That's the photo on the bottom left. And that sanitary sewer main, it's probably an 8-inch sewer main. It's encased in concrete. It should not be exposed like that. That sewer main serves a lot of the neighborhoods and homes in that area. So we want to protect that. It is a county owned sewer line. So kitchen water, bath water, all that stuff goes through that pipe from all the surrounding homes. And it's certainly something we want to keep in good condition and not have exposed, as you see it there on the plans. I wanted to quickly touch on the under banks, the undercut for the banks. Probably the best photo to look at is the one on the top right. So this can really happen when the water is moving faster and it erodes the bottom of the stream bank, which kind of creates this overhang that you're looking at. And those hollowed out areas, it's almost like a cliff or a ledge that's hanging over the stream, and over time those can collapse on themselves, which is not good. It's just more sediment, and it just results that gets washed downstream, fast. It's further erosion, and as that happens over time, the stream continues to widen and widen and widen. I don't see any raised hands or anything just yet. Okay. Moving on to the next slide here. Again, a few more pictures of the existing condition. The examples again of an over-widened channel on the right there. I won't describe that. Well, actually, let me touch on that. There's two things going on here. It's not only is the channel incised, but during even low flow events, rain events, this water level here will rise, flow onto these areas here, and then the undercut of the banks here and here continues to happen and gets worse over time. So both of those, the incised channel and the widened channel, are detrimental to stream health. The entrenched channel here, that's just a fancy term for a stream that's cut so deep into the ground that the water can no longer overflow onto the surrounding forest floor, even during like heavy rains. So that's something we're trying to repair. We want to avoid, and it certainly that sort of thing results just in more erosion. The photo on the top left is earlier on at the beginning of the presentation, I touched on the failing concrete that is at the very upstream end of the project, which is where our project begins. And I'll show a vicinity map here showing the general vicinity of the stream, the approximate limits of work here in a second. But the failing concrete that I was talking about, so it's hard to see in this picture, but the outfalls, the storm sewer outfall pipes that feed this stream that we're going to repair, that begins here. So again, the project begins here, and you can see all this failing concrete that was installed at some point, probably to try and minimize erosion and that sort of thing. But as technology has evolved and things continue to evolve, our stream restoration will be addressing this in a much more natural like way, if you will, as opposed to just pouring concrete and having it fail as such over time. Okay, project goals. So this is probably, just bear with me on the goals here. It's probably the most detailed sheet. There's some terms on here that are technical, but I'll be try and be brief and explain that. But first is the hydraulics. We briefly touched on that. Part of the stream restoration that we do is to allow the stream to spread out onto its natural forest floor. So we certainly consider that. The other is geomorphology, if I'm even saying that correctly. I think I am, but all that is the study of landforms and the processes that shape them. So improving stability of the stream by the various methods that we propose, thereby reducing erosion is a big goal. Diversifying the stream's characteristics, like pools, like installing or creating new pools, shallow areas, gravel beds, etc. All help with that, and maintaining proper sediment transport. So when I say diversifying the stream's features, all I mean by that is like adding pools, shallow areas, gravel beds, etc. All that helps to slow the water down, which just reduces erosion and downstream flooding over time. There's also a water quality component to that that is helped by trapping and filtering the sediment and the pollutants. Doing all this creates a variety of habitats for fish, insects, wildlife, you name it, all of which supports a healthy ecosystem. Let's see, maintaining proper sediment transport. That all we mean by that is that's really a means for making sure the stream can carry sediment, sand, gravel, etc., without too much building up, if you will, or washing away. So it's kind of a middle ground, if you will, and all this helps to keep the stream stable and prevent erosion, excuse me, or clogging, that sort of thing. The next bullet there is physiochemical processes. Golly, I thought geomorphology was hard to say. That's even more difficult. So all that is a fancy term for physical and chemical changes. One of the key components of that is raising the groundwater to help raising the groundwater level, I should say, to help remove excess nutrients and keep the stream healthy. So as when you raise the groundwater level, and I realize a lot of you, if not all of you, probably already know this, but as you raise the groundwater level, it helps to keep the soil wet. That supports wetland type plant species and microbes. And as I touched on earlier, these plants and microbes use excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which again in excess can be harmful to the environment. But anyway, these all that stuff is the plants and microbes can break that down, and the plants can grow from it. So without enough groundwater, the soil stays too dry really for wetlands to function properly. So the higher the groundwater, the more improved pockets of wetlands you have, which means just better natural filtering. Another thing that we do with stream restoration, and a lot of these bullets really can be applied to all these various sections here that I've underlined in bold. Just somebody join? No, okay. So incorporating rocks, for example, adding rocks, gravel, even logs, and I should note logs that are felled or cut down from this actual site are used to create really obstacles in the stream that slow the water down, essentially making the water move more unevenly, if you will. This slower water gives the organic material like leaves, as well as even the runoff, just the water, which again can have excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which are bad if in excess. So it can give the water an opportunity or time to settle, be filtered out, and then eventually broken down by the microbes in the soil, for example, as well as the insects. They turn those nutrients um, into harmless nitrogen gas or even ammonium. Ammonium is just another form of nitrogen that plants can use safely as fertilizer. So all these processes are a good thing. They help reduce pollution and keep the stream ecosystem balanced, which is a huge goal of this, and we strive to do that. Um, Biology and ecology. Couple bullet points there. Some of this is repetitive again, as I noted, but biology and ecology, we strive to improve the wetland hydrology to support some of these wetland species, um, plants, etc., even organisms and wildlife. Enhancing deep and shallow areas in the stream to provide a variety of habitats for different species. So having a pocket of water on the side and a little wetland and running water in the main channel, support different types of habitat or provide varying habitats for varying um, animal species, I should say. One of my favorite jobs, um, not this one, but in my previous job, a little pocket of wetland area that we created and designed and constructed with that project, within one growing season had a muskrat living in there, and immediately 5 feet adjacent to that is the main stream channel with amphibians, frogs, salamanders, crayfish, worms. I mean, I saw all this stuff with my own eyes, and it was very interesting to me that the muskrat wouldn't be hanging out in the main channel really, but preferred the pool that we had created, 5 feet from the main channel. So that's what I mean about creating varying different types of habitat for varying types of animal species, et cetera, et cetera. Um, we also strive to increase and diversify physical structures in the channel. As I touched on earlier, these can be large rocks, boulders, pools that we create. We often step pool, streams down to help create a constant flow and pockets of pools. These are often done by large boulder type structures. There's technical terms for them, like cross veins and these sorts of things. But we also do that by installing logs that were cut down on site. Believe it or not, these logs, as long as they remain wet, and we try and do that with stream, during design by considering the elevation of the moving water, et cetera, et cetera. The logs can remain and stay intact for a decade, if not 2 decades. So it's quite an interesting process there, how it doesn't decay like that over time. Eventually it will, but not for many, many years. Um, Moving on to the next topic here, biology and ecology. Um, Again, improving wetland hydrology um, to support wetland species. Enhance the deep and shallow areas in the stream for the different types of habitats, um, incorporating all kinds of different structures into the stream. And while doing all this, at least during design, we take we make a big effort and really take pride in trying to minimize impacts to the existing vegetation, the existing trees, all that stuff. And I'll touch on that in the next couple of slides. And last but not least would be community and public infrastructure. And a few slides ago touched on that component of the project as well, when I showed you all the existing sanitary sewer main that was essentially sticking out from the bottom of the existing stream bed there, which we do not want exposed. This is our proposed 35% concept design. It is just one of the sheets, if you will, in our design plan set. Couple things to note on this. All the colored circles that you see there are existing trees. We wanted to provide this just to show the effort that we go through, both at the county as well as our consultant Biohabitats, in doing a tree survey. They look very closely at the tree survey and essentially document and create an inventory of all trees on site and their condition. Actually, I should clarify, not all trees, but trees that are 12 inches in diameter or larger, at your chest height, are all looked at and documented. So all that stuff is considered very closely, actually, when we're doing the design for a stream and looking at which trees to try and save, which trees to remove. Specimen trees, which often can be these larger shaped colored circles that you see, we try and do what we can to save those. So on this particular plan, again, please keep in mind it's still very early in design. We're still looking at all this, so this is, you know, subject to change. But we wanted to provide this plan here to also not only show that the trees and the extent that we go to try and save them, but also for access. This project, the plan is to access this project from one location, excuse me, and that would be off of Brayburn Drive, which is right here, where my hand is. There's a nice open area here on the grass, that is a perfect spot for staging and stockpile area. If you just follow my hand here, some of the other features of the plan, this hatching pattern here that you see that's underneath my hand, is an access road. So to construct the stream, it's temporary. It's there and will be installed for construction vehicles to traverse over. It's just a system of like timber lumber, of a certain dimension that rests on a layer of mulch, that just provides a footing, if you will, for construction traffic. So to do the work on the stream, it's also there to prevent compaction of the existing soil underneath. So that would be another example of the extent and the considerations that we go to during design to try and minimize impact, even from a compaction perspective, to stream restoration. One thing I did want to highlight on here is the if you follow my hand here, this is what we call the LOD, which stands for limits of disturbance. So it follows my hand here, goes around. It continues, which I'll show you guys on the next sheet. But on this sheet, it picks up, you know, at Brayburn Drive, and this way goes along, comes down this way. It's right under my hand. I know it's probably hard to see. And this presentation will be posted, so you'll be able to certainly take a closer look at it if you wish. But the LOD continues on downstream. You can see more of this hatching pattern here, which are just more areas of the access, the temporary access road I was just talking about. If you follow my hand here, this is really the main channel that's being that will be repaired. So this is the center line of the main channel. It's this darker line type with the two dots in between. I know there's quite a bit going on in this drawing, so I want to take time to go over it and explain it. These various circles here that you see, these are this is just what we refer to as grading, which is just moving earth, that sort of thing, and it's depicted by contours. So these circles, they have elevations associated with them. These circles are pools, and these are structures, or for brief terms, sort of create like dams at the bottom of each pool, like that. So that's a method we use to sort of step the pool or the stream down as you progress downstream. And it's I don't want to call it like a waterfall, but that's kind of like what it is. There's a legend here on the right side of the sheet. Again, if you wanted to come back and look at the presentation, anything that stands out to you here on the plan is briefly described here on the right side under the legend. Are there any questions so far from anybody? Okay. So this is the upstream end of the project. The next sheet, you can see this point right here is what is just what we refer to as a match line. So if I go to the next sheet, my hand right here picks back up right here. Okay, so we continue downstream. Again, if you this is the proposed center line with this design of the main channel of the stream. It goes in and ends right approximately at that point, at which point it enters an existing storm sewer system. I think I touched on a tributary or an intermittent tributary earlier on. That would be this guy right here. Okay, so the proposed work we have for that intermittent tributary is less extensive than the work proposed for the main channel. Again, these temporary access road here, which is denoted by this brick hatch pattern that looks like a very squiggly road. Again, it's temporary, and it's there to allow access to the tributary to do the work. Okay, we wanted to provide this slide here again, not to harp on design considerations, but we really do go to great lengths in both the county as well as our AE Biohabitats in trying to do the right thing, right, and try and design this thing so that we minimize impact, et cetera, et cetera. So again, just touching on some of this, some of the tree stuff that I went over. Right now, at this stage, we have approximately, that's what that little squiggly here in front of the 424 means. Approximately 424 trees were surveyed. Again, only the ones that are 12 inches in diameter or greater. At this stage, approximately 25 trees are proposed for removal, which I think is really good, but that is subject to change. So please don't hold us to that. But again, the point here is to show that we really try to consider that. I think I touched on it earlier, but the removed trees will be reused on site to the extent possible. We're continuing to refine the tree removal plan that was the previous slide, or the previous two slides. As design progresses, There could be some more tree save, but at the same time, some more tree removal necessary. So all that stuff comes to fruition really as design progresses and finalizes. So the LOD that I was going over earlier, which again stands for limits of disturbance, and again that's all that is essentially from, so there it is right there, LOD, right, to LOD on this side. So that's the limits of disturbance. We do that to restrict the contractor to be within those areas, but not outside, but within. So they need the room to work. They need the room to realign the stream, to rotate equipment, all that stuff, and to construct the stream, because the stream doesn't always, the proposed stream centerline alignment doesn't always follow the existing centerline alignment of the existing stream. So there is meandering that we introduce intentionally to help slow the water down, help spread the water out, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to touch on that again briefly because everything within the limits of disturbance is typically working area. The trees within that area are removed. Dirt is moved around. Earthwork is, changes to the earth is happening via the construction equipment, et cetera, et cetera. But when the stream is built and constructed, they end up looking very, very nice. Beautiful, actually. The picture to the right is an example of that very thing. So this picture to the right here shows, I wish there was a before and after. We do have some of those in the following slides, but this is just an example of how nice and environmentally functioning from an ecosystem perspective the stream can be once it's all constructed. We within the limits of disturbance, once the stream is constructed, we go through a replanting process. So where we replant new trees, bushes, shrubs, everything is native. We plant new seed like wetland type grasses, all kinds of new wetland related vegetation that is all native. That brings me to this next slide. These are actually examples from this very project of proposed vegetation and trees that we have for this project. So river birch, winterberry holly, red maple, dogwood, and American sycamore. There's a lot more than this. I touched on wetlands, grasses. None of these is that. But my point is the planting of new vegetation is not just specific to these five, but there's a whole variety of species that we go to great lengths to replant and introduce to the project. This is the last technical slide here. I wanted to provide this just to show essentially what's happening with this project. So the two diagrams here to my right, if you follow my hand, this is as if you're standing in the existing stream, either looking downstream or upstream. And the dashed line here is the existing channel, the existing stream. So here, as well as here. So with this particular project, in general, not in all areas, but in general, what we're doing here is raising the bottom of the stream, which helps to alleviate a lot of the things that I touched on earlier. That it eliminates the deep cut channel, the incised channel. It eliminates the widened channel. Doing this helps to spread the water out onto the forest floor, et cetera, excuse me, et cetera, et cetera. So all these are very good things. So to go over a couple of the bullets on this slide, I know I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but reduce erosion is a big animal, right? It's a big thing we want to do. I touched on how the water spreads out more across the new forest floor. That promotes ecosystem health. It helps to trap sediment. So rather than sediment just shooting downstream of a deep cut, narrow channel with very fast moving water, if you do what I said here to the right, in accordance with those diagrams, sediment trapping will occur not only in the new restored stream, but also on the forest floor immediately on either side of the stream. Material processing and reduction in flooding. So material processing, that's an interesting term, but all I mean by that is it's just the stream's ability to break down organic matter and nutrients like leaves and sticks or nitrogen, which I touched on earlier. So if you slow the water down with new features like like rocks, the pools, um, all the things that we're doing with this particular stream, that slowing the water down like that allows microbes, insects, and plants to digest and absorb the material. So this cleans the water and it supports the ecosystem just like a natural recycling system, if you will. The third bullet there, reduce flows via infiltration, evaporation, and surface storage. So a big benefit of doing a stream restoration project. We got about 12 more minutes here, so I'll try and be quick. The infiltration helps groundwater recharge, for example. So that helps to keep the stream flowing even during dry periods and filters pollutants as soil and plants trap and break them down. So anytime you can spread the water out onto the adjoining forest floor, that creates an opportunity for infiltration, raise the groundwater level up. The groundwater feeds the stream. It helps to keep it a consistently flowing natural stream. Surface storage, this can help with downstream flooding, for example. So if you spread the water out, there's more opportunity for pockets of wetlands, which we have incorporated into the design. So those are, we help to sustain those by doing what we do here, by raising the bottom of the stream. Not to mention evaporation. Everybody knows what evaporation is, but it will help to reduce, water that we're sending downstream. So if it can sit 6 inches, 1 foot roughly on the forest floor, or even within the stream channel, there's an evaporation component there. So I touched on groundwater recharge, improving the summertime base flows. I explained that well. Another big benefit is, of course, stream restoration helps to support wetlands and vernal pools. I have to confess and say I had to look up exactly what vernal pools meant, but those are nothing but small, shallow wetlands that form in the spring from rain or snow melt, that sort of thing. And they eventually do dry up, so there are no fish in those. But in this case, that's a good thing because it actually makes those areas good breeding spots for amphibians and insects and amphibians like salamanders, frogs. So what that does there, again, it just promotes biodiversification, another big word, but that's just a fancy term for more species and more variation, more genetic variation, which touches on habitat diversity there. Moving on to the next slide here, a couple project requirements and impacts. I got about 9 minutes here, so I apologize. I do want to take some questions here. So just bear with us. I touched on the construction entrance off of Brayburn Drive there. There's one entrance for the project. That would be it there. There is an existing asphalt path from Rosedale Lane that goes in a westerly direction. There's a north arrow there. Spans, at which point it ties into that pedestrian existing bridge that I showed you all in an earlier slide, and continues and eventually goes on to the Canterbury Woods Elementary School property. So again, very early in design here, but the plan for what we'd like to try and do is have sort of an intermittent closure of that existing asphalt trail. So there certainly will be times where the trail will have to be closed, but we're trying to do things here where when there's an opportunity to have it open and have that pedestrian connection between Rosedale Lane and Canterbury Woods Elementary, we'd like to try and do that if we can. There is another that existing asphalt path could potentially serve as as possible access for us for construction. It would not be major, large construction vehicles that I'm talking about here, considering the homes right here where my hand is and the minimal space between the homes to do that. So we want to avoid that, be as considerate as possible to the neighboring homes in the area. So if we do use this trail to support the construction of this project, our thought at this time is probably much smaller vehicles, like all-terrain vehicles that would support, for instance, landscaping that would happen at the end of the project once the stream was constructed. But thinking out loud here, that's unlikely, but it's possible we may use that trail for those types of reasons. Construction all occurs on Fairfax County Park property. So within the limits of disturbance that I noted earlier, we do have existing easements on the property, Fairfax County easements, but the work is all on Willow Woods, Fairfax County Park property. Our hope is that construction can happen without obtaining any easements from any of the adjoining or abutting property owners. I think that's possible. It's certainly always subject to change, but a goal of this project is to do the work within the park property and not necessarily have to go onto a homeowner's property. Okay, so we're at the end of the presentation here. I wanted to provide these just to show, these are just example renderings. This is actually taken out of one of the documents for this particular project. So again, this is the stream here that we're planning to restore. It's the existing condition. And then this here on the right is a rendering of what we hope it will look like in the end. Something similar to that. Something similar to that, not exactly that, but you can see there's a significant improvement there. A couple examples of similar projects. This one here is Turkey Run. After just 1 year, it looks like this. And then after 4 years, after the vegetation really establishes itself, it's almost hard to see the water. So you go from a very eroded stream with undercut banks, very wide, incised, deep channel, to something very nice like this. Similarly, this is difficult run, a before to your left and an after to the right. This is one of my favorite slides in the photo. I think this is amazing work. And our project will, comparatively speaking, we hope to do the same thing that you're looking at here. This is Poplar Springs, again, a very severely eroded cliff, really. Undercut bank, turns into something very nice like this. This picture here to the right is probably 1 or 2 growing seasons after construction. So it's really amazing how fast, once the stream is constructed, how fast the vegetation can reestablish itself. Vegetation again, all sorts. You can see trees planted here. All this stuff on the ground here is probably some sort of wetland type grass. Again, all native. Another example of a stream restoration is Dead Run. You can see the condition here, severe erosion, right? Post-construction, it looks much better. Frame of reference would be the house here in the background. So this here is probably right after construction, if I had to guess, just by looking at the photo and the establishment of the vegetation. So 2017. And then 1 year post-construction in 2018, you have that. So it goes from this to that. And then 2 years post-construction in 2019, it's even more established. So we'll continue to have public meetings as design progresses at various milestones in design. Construction timeline is yet to be determined. Our goal and what we're focusing on right now is continuing with design, finalizing design. There's an awful lot that goes into that, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, if you will. But the goal is to finish the design, get it permitted, at which point we hand it over to a different department down the hall, and they begin the bid process. They manage the construction of it. After it's constructed, we do something called post-construction monitoring. We are actually currently doing pre-construction monitoring, which essentially monitors the condition of the stream from from a sediment perspective, a vegetation perspective, even amphibians, all kinds of different things are looked at during monitoring, and we do that post-construction as well, to confirm the stream is functioning the way we designed it and the way we want it to function. So that is all. Wow, 7:59, can't believe it. Very happy you all joined the presentation. And I think we can open it up to a few questions if you all have any and would like to ask.
Yes, I think the chat questions so far have been answered. But Charles, if you want to speak for a moment, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just one quick thing. I think this and some of the questions, really good questions. Dennis, is it possible to put it on slide 14 for just a minute?
Which slide?
14.
Oh, remind me, I want to talk about this flyer before we all get off the phone here. I was provided this by Brian Campbell. Okay, sorry. Slide 14.
So just to remind folks real quickly, this slide's a really good illustration. One of the most important things that Dennis mentioned, only 25 trees are currently listed for take. The reason why this project's different, we're very excited to work with Biohabitats. They have experience doing a wide variety of different restoration types. One of the main features of this is working in the channel so that we are eliminating this extra haul road outside the channel, which is the cause of a lot of tree impacts and a lot of restoration projects. So by working largely within the channel, we're greatly reducing those impacts. But this image also illustrates that the upper portion of this project is this technique called regenerative stormwater conveyance or step pool conveyance, with these features that show these the rock features there. In between there are sand and wood. And that material absorbs a lot of the water and makes it go more slowly so that it really filters the water, slows it down for most of our storm events, and then releases it slowly downstream. And this is a tremendously beneficial practice. We haven't done it in quite this way before. So I think this is a pretty unique project in that perspective, working in the channel, using this method that really helps filter the water. And overall, I think it makes this Willow Woods project pretty unique. So we're pretty excited to share this with you and to see this project move forward.
Absolutely. Any other, oh, hey, Lisa, I see that you joined. Any other questions? We invited, we have another project just north of Brayburn Drive, right on the other side of the road, at the Ilda Pool property. So we extended the invite to the pool board as well. I can't see the chat window, so if there's
So Dennis, there was another question from Philip asking about how wide the limit of disturbance is. I know it varies quite a bit through there, but I don't know if you have some average measurements throughout the stream valley of the width of the limit of disturbance. Or if not, I can take some measurements for you.
Yeah, no, I can answer that. It varies, as you noted, but let me take a spot here. Okay, so okay, so if why don't we pick this spot roughly here? So I'll do a quick measurement from here to here. Why the screen turns blue like this drives me up a wall, but that's just what happens. But I know where the LOD is, so this is approximate. Goes from there. Okay, that point is roughly 65 feet, 65, 70 feet. Why it turns blue like that, I have no clue. But you can see it makes it very difficult. Maybe you can help me with that, Katie. I'm sure you have a workaround for that.
It happens to me too, so don't feel bad.
I think some other areas, Dennis, it kind of varies between 40 to 70 feet, I would say
Yeah.
on average. Some
Yeah.
of the wider areas where
So-
we have to have construction access next to the stream.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little bit wider. Sometimes we're looking for opportunities to, work in the stream if possible.
Yep.
to minimize impacts again. A lot of it is the trying to minimize impacts to what's good and just try to fix what's not good.
Yep. So at this point here, as Paul just noted, that's approximately 40 feet. So from where my hand is to the other side where the LOD is approximately 40 feet at this point. But was what Charles and what Paul just touched on, you know, one of the ways we minimize the dimension of that LOD is by having the contractor work in the stream to do the restoration. So, for example, here's a perfect spot. So this temporary access road here, right? If it didn't tie out into the stream, which is a point of access for the contractor to get to the stream and do the work, if we didn't do that and we continued this access road along where my hand is like this, that would bump that LOD out here that much further. So these access roads are what, typically 18 to 20 feet wide, something like that.
16 is the minimum usually, and that
Okay.
can be very tight.
Yeah, so let's call it 18 feet. So if you would essentially have to bump this LOD out this way an additional 18 feet, plus or minus, in general, thereby having to remove specimen trees like this one right here.
Dennis, thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to give Jay Horseman, who's here with us from our utility design and construction branch, the opportunity to talk a little bit about our impacts to trails and really hear back from the community on any concerns there. So Jay, if you have the opportunity to unmute yourself and join. Dennis, could you go back to the slide where you had you know, the trails shown as well as Brayburn Drive? I think that kind of captures the different access challenges that we have for the site. Thank you.
This one?
Yeah, that slide should work. All right, Jay, it is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everybody, for attending our meeting here this evening. Another thing we like to do at these presentations is talk to our community about how you guys use this property now. We are working to maintain any and all pedestrian access that is through the site or along the frontage of the site. We know that you guys as the residents are the expert as to how this park gets used by you and the community. So I just wanted to ask you guys to be thinking about how you use the park. Dennis talked a little bit about the asphalt trail accessing the elementary school. We know that there's sidewalk along the frontage. We know there's bicycle paths along the frontage. We're short on time here tonight, but if there are things that you guys know about people or ways that this park is being used, please share that with Dennis. Please bring that to our attention. While we have you here tonight, does anybody have any questions or issues about pedestrian access to or through the park? Dennis talked a little bit about the intermittent closings of the trail leading to the school. We're aware of the school access. We're aware of the school pedestrians cutting through the park in order to get to the school. If people have any input or questions for us, we would like to be able to incorporate that into our design for this project. And once again, thanks everybody for attending our presentation tonight.
So Philip, to answer your question on closing the trail, so we're not looking to try to close the trail that goes from Rosedale to the school. We realize that at some point we're going to have a mixing of construction access crossing over that trail. And so we're looking to maximize safety with those that need to utilize the trail while minimizing any shutdowns. Likely the natural trail that goes from that paved trail up to Brayburn Drive will have to be closed during construction for safety reasons. We don't want to pose a risk to the residents in the area, but we're going to do our best to try to minimize impacts to the trails. So thank you.
And you got, there's a vacuum cleaner going nuts over here. But to fill up the, okay, I think Lisa wanted to speak. James, if you could unmute Lisa. I should note that for this particular presentation, we contacted all of the adjoining or abutting properties to the project, as well as the HOA and as well as surrounding HOAs and civic associations like the Friends of Atkinson Creek and the Friends of Long Branch. But one of the adjoining properties that we contacted was the school. So I was hoping that somebody from the school would be attending this, but unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Lisa, the manager of the trail, the dirt trail that you're speaking of, is the Park Authority, and we did speak with them on site about that trail. In terms of the condition of it, any trails that we impact with construction would be restored in kind to their previous condition. We're limited in terms of our funding on what we can spend money on, so we can't build new trails, but we can certainly restore anything that we impact. So that's the. I think that answers your question there.
It does, yeah, thank you. I just also had a random thought, maybe worth exploring if the school gets interested, but I know that they do some like environmental education with the kids. And they do, I think they have they have a little native plant garden, and I think they're trying to expand that. So just food for thought if there's something that y'all might want the kids to help with or get them out just to see it when it's done. That could be a neat opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that is a great idea.
Yeah. No, I would love to give a tour to kids once the stream is constructed and safe. Even during construction, if it's possible, if there's a window there, but unlikely.
We have a group that is currently engaged with Canterbury Woods, and they do a lot of education on our streams and the work that we're doing. So we have a very active presence there right now in terms of our education and outreach inside our division.
Additionally, after the projects are completed, we usually put up educational signage at key points along the project as well. So there's that opportunity after the project.
Before I forget, Brian, I wanted to share the flyer with the group that you sent me earlier today. So there's since we're wrapping up here, although I think Philip had a question, Paul, but let me just touch on this real quick. So there's a cleanup day, April 26th. Fairfax County Park Authority cleanup day in coordination with Brian's group, Friends of Long Branch. So not only a cleanup, but also a scavenger hunt, I see. Maybe I'll try and make it.
Philip, to answer your question, that's really a decision between the park authority and the schools. It's a park authority trail that they maintain there, the asphalt trail. So it's really outside of the scope of our project here, but it's a, you know, a great idea worth bringing up with park authority. We can pass that along to them.
But with these plans, there's no, there are no plans and it's not in the scope to realign or widen or add new asphalt trails, anything like that. But certainly if this existing asphalt trail is damaged during construction, it would be the contractor's responsibility to repair it to the existing condition.
Well, we're going to end the recording, but you're certainly welcome to stick around and ask any remaining questions, but stop the recording now and